Our story begins, like so many others, where families are divided by greed and jealousy.
Tradition, 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 tradition.
In this case, we have the story of Joseph, the youngest of many brothers, and the favorite of their father, Jacob. Ah, yes, the house of Jacob. He was sold into slavery by his brothers to a caravan. He was then sold into slavery in Egypt. Joseph did well in Egypt and became a minister to the Pharaoh. Just like Sherman, he interpreted the dreams of one of the high priests and predicted 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine. He prepared storehouses with grain, and when Joseph's brothers came to buy food during the lean years, he recognized them and had them bring their families to Egypt. There, the Hebrews lived and multiplied. Then, there arose a new king in Egypt who knew not Joseph. He said there were too many Jews in Egypt, and if a war erupted, they might rise up against him. So he made them into slaves and had them build treasure cities for him. To further destroy them, he had them cast their firstborn into the river. One woman put her baby into a basket and put him into the river. He was found by the Pharaoh's daughter, who called him Moses, which means he was brought forth from the water. Moses' sister, Miriam, saw what happened and got his mother a job as a nanny and nursemaid so that Moses would know his own people. When Moses was all grown up, he came across an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew. He then smote the Egyptian. Because he did that, he fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian for an unknown period of time.
Any resemblance between the land of Midian and the African village at the Bronx Zoo is purely coincidental.
One day, he was guarding sheep when the voice of you-know-who spoke to him from a burning bush. The voice said, "I will send you to Pharaoh to bring my people out of slavery." So Moses went to Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go." But the Pharaoh said, "NFW." So Moses needed to convince the Pharaoh that he was in fact sent by God. And so he turned his cane into a snake by throwing it to the ground and having a snake appear before the Pharaoh. But even that was not enough to convince the evil Pharaoh to let the Jews out of slavery.
Moses, tell your God I've just begun. My heart is hardened. The Hebrews are here to stay.
So God sent 10 plagues. Blood, boils, frogs, hail, vermin, locusts, beasts, darkness, cattle disease, and then, finally, the slaying of the firstborn. But of course, God did not want the plague of the killing of the firstborn to affect the Jews. So he instructed them to place blood on their doors so that the angel of death would pass over their homes and not kill their firstborn. This was the last straw. The Pharaoh decided to allow the Jews to leave. But of course, they needed to pack quickly. There wasn't even time to allow the bread to rise. The Jews walked for miles and miles. They eventually came upon the Red Sea. Not everyone had boats, so Moses miraculously parted the Red Sea so that the Jews could cross. The Egyptians were close behind, but as the Jews arrived safely on the other side, the opening of the Red Sea closed, and the waters swallowed the Egyptians and their chariots and their horses. They wandered in the desert for 40 years. And in the desert, Moses was given the 10 Commandments. After wandering in the desert for 40 years, they finally found the one place in the Middle East that had no oil, the land of milk and honey, Eretz Yisrael. Moses was not able to join them in the Promised Land. He could only look upon it from the hills on the outside. But the Jewish people went to the land of milk and honey. They thrived, they became fruitful, and they multiplied. You may now enjoy the Passover meal, or, as they said in days of yore, good food, good meat, good God, let's eat.